Welcome everybody to Harrison Associates American Hemp Farmers Table Talk webinar series. I am so excited to be here with you all today, and thank you so much to the Status Network for hosting our webinar today. We will be going over Georgia's hemp application licensing process for all of the farmers who are interested in becoming a hemp cultivator. Welcome everybody to Harrison Associates here in Georgia. American Hemp Farmers Table Talk outside of that, series. We will also have special guests Bruce Perlin of Hemp Inc. University and Michael Coach Harris of the Georgia Hemp Association. Both of them are pioneers in the hemp and cannabis industry. We're just so excited to bring you all of this information today. So again, we're going to get started with the hemp licensing process. So if you would like to do this with us in real time, go ahead and grab your laptop, your computer, or your tablet, and you can go over to the Georgia Department of Agriculture's website. That's Commissioner Gary Black's website. You could go to agr.georgia.gov/Georgia-hemp-program. So if you go to the Georgia Department of Agriculture's website, you could go over this with us right now. So we are about to do a screen share where we're going to go through this with you today. So again, if you go to www.agr.georgia.gov, you can go and apply. I think my mouse got stuck, so here we go. So you see, as you can see, there are two different permitting options. You can be a processor or you can be a grower. And for those of you who are just now getting started, a grower's license is way cheaper than a processor's license. And if you are a processor, there's a level of knowledge and machinery that you would need to do so. So we'll go through the Georgia grower license first because a lot of farmers, that's where they'll be starting. So once you click on that, there's a whole bunch of rules that you can go through. You see some of the laws and regulations that they came up with through the 2018 Farm Bill Act. Some of the things you need to be mindful of prior to going in, like making sure you have a background check for everybody who's going to be in your operation. Making sure that if you want to renew, you do that by December 1st, 2020. So no matter when you do your application process, it will always renew on December 1st, 2020. It will always renew on December 1st. So if you do yours now, you get approved on December 1st, you'll have to do another application process. Also, if you'd like to be a grower here in the state of Georgia, it's $50 per acre. And there's a maximum of 5,000, a fee up to $5,000. So I believe that's 500 acres you're able to go up to cultivate hemp in Georgia. Now this is a big thing right here. A lot of people feel like they're just going to jump into the industry because they have land or because they have money, but there's certain things that you have to have prior to getting your license for cultivation for hemp in the state of Georgia. A big one is your Georgia GATE card. GATE standing for Georgia Agricultural Tax Exemption. And we're going to go over to that site just a moment before we go into the hemp processing. Right here, if you go to forms.agr.georgia.gov, again, that's forms.agr.georgia.gov. You can get information about getting your GATE card. For everybody joining me live on Facebook, you can also go to my link at the top of the comment section and view this live on Status Network. You'll get a very good visual of what we're doing right now, but right now you're here live with us in the studio. So you could stay here in the studio with me, or you could join that link at the top of the comments list so you could get it on statusnetwork.net. For everybody who is on the GATE website, you see it's about 3 pages long as far as the 10 steps that you'll need for you to get your GATE card in the state of Georgia. So we're not going to go over the GATE application right now, but just know that you need that if you want to cultivate or process here in the state of Georgia. You also will need select IRS forms. and any tax returns, sales receipts, or documentation requested by the commissioner, who's Gary Black, for your application to get processed. Another big thing is to know that everybody in your operation may not have a criminal background. So if somebody had a criminal background, even if they're just going to be, say, a cashier in your operation, you still have to do a background check for them. So you have to be mindful of that when submitting your plans to Georgia Department of Agriculture. Aside from that, another big thing is making sure that you have the right coordinates for your application. You'll see a little more of the importance of that when we go to the actual application part. But I heard that's a big thing for a lot of farmers. Their applications are getting sent back because the coordinates are improper. So just be mindful that if you are going to apply for a license, you need to have the coordinates of where your operation will be. Below here is an application checklist. You'll need a current certificate of existing business. You could do that through the Secretary of State. So that would be either a sole proprietorship, a LLC, a LLP, an incorporation, an association. So you will need to be incorporated through the Georgia Secretary of State prior to doing this application. And any required local business licenses you may need for brick and mortar businesses that will be in cities, you need to make sure that a hemp business is okay with your local municipalities before you start investing money into your plan. So you don't waste your investors' money thinking they're going to get a location, and then you find out that your local municipal officials do not support your business, and then that would have been wasted money. So you want to make sure that you have those conversations as well. For grow sites, you will need an aerial map or photograph, a satellite image that clearly shows the boundaries and dimensions of your grow site, and a copy of the deed or a lease or land agreement with the grow site property. And they also have links to those on their website, which is right here. You see this hemp affidavit. We'll even click it so you can see. So this is just a basic affidavit for anybody who you are going to be doing business with and including in your hemp processing plan. So isn't that amazing? They provided that for you. You don't have to worry about coming up with that paperwork. So now we've just entered the hemp growers license portal. You see they're asking for basic demographic information, your name, phone number, email address, your physical address, and then your mailing address. So I'm just going to put in some proxy information so we can, I wish Google would stop telling y'all all my business. How do I stop doing that? Well, we will do this. We're going to put in some proxy information so we can go ahead to the next page. We'll do sample@gmail.com. 1234 win way, because we're going to win with this hemp industry. Atlanta, Georgia. And as you see, this is pretty basic. It's not super hard. From what I've been told, the hardest part has been making sure your coordinates are together and actually getting it put through the office with the GDA. So we put in this proxy information just so we could go to the next page. And so now we're to the second part of the hemp growers license. So once you've entered your basic demographic information, you could go down here to your business information. And it says, if applying as a business. That's interesting to me because they don't have an individual licensing process, which would be good for things such as white labeling, Smoke shops currently sell smokable flower, and under House Resolution 847, that would criminalize them. You know, we're not for the criminalization of hemp. Hemp is a commodity. It can be used for industrial purposes, not only smokable purposes. So that's something Georgia really needs to consider in this application process. Like we says, it says if applying as a business, but there are individuals such as smoke shop owners, people who are doing white labeling, labs who will end up doing formulations, and brokers and people in logistics who kind of aren't covered by the two application processes currently available. So that's something farmers and advocates will have to push forward for here in the state of Georgia, making sure that there are protections either through some type of permitting or certifying process, that people who want to be in this industry, not as the grower but still plant touching, that they're covered and won't be criminalized. So again, that's just one part of it. Understanding Georgia needs to be mindful. Again, that's House Resolution 824 that would criminalize smokable flower in smoke shops. So if you're opposed to that, you need to be speaking to your state rep right now to ensure farmers won't be criminalized for things like that. They just want to be business owners. They want to make money just like everybody else in this industry. So now we're back to if you're applying as a business. It's asking you what is your business type. Again, we went over the type of business and corporations that there are: LLC, sole proprietorship, etc. Then you'll need a EIN number. If you've never had a business before, you get your EIN number through the IRS. So you would go to the IRS's website. You cannot get an EIN for your business before you establish your business, which means you would need to go through the Secretary of State first to incorporate your business and then get your EIN number for that entity. So just be mindful that all of these things are a process and that it takes time. So it takes time for the Secretary of State to process your paperwork to become a business incorporated business. It takes time for the IRS to register you and give you an EIN number. So this will be a time process, not something you can just do in one day unless you already have your business incorporated and already have your EIN and your place or location where you will be growing. So if you have all those things together, you'll just simply type them into this area right here. You'll attach your current certificate of existence. Again, that's the LLC we talked about. You'll just choose a file and upload it so you can get that into their system. And then it says attach local business license. Again, if you're going to be in a brick and mortar and need additional business licenses. So then we're going to go down to business members. It says, please use the following link to update your business members. You must list all business members, each owner, key participant, and person holding a beneficial interest. We talked about this, so again, remember there will be background checks on anybody you list in this section. So if you think that will be problematic to your application and to your license, you need to be mindful of that when writing people into your plan. So just be mindful of that when doing your business process. Your business members need to be able to pass a background check. So then it's asking for the total acres you intend to cultivate. It's asking for the number of greenhouses. I think we should know that in the bill, House Bill 213, that each greenhouse is counted as an acre. So if you had 1 acre and thought you were going to put, a couple of greenhouses on there and they were only going to charge you for 1 acre, that's a negative. Georgia will charge you per acre for each greenhouse that you have. So each greenhouse is an acre. Be mindful of that. So that is not a loophole that a lot of people thought they would have. Right here you see it says attach an aerial map. This is where a lot of people have been getting caught up. Even utilizing the tool that they have right here. So we need to be mindful of that. Whatever you do, make sure you pull up your address on Google Maps, type it in, and click directly over whatever location you're intending to grow so you can get those coordinates. One of the farmers gave us that very good tip on another webinar. So if you're having problems with getting your coordinates or your aerial view, Google Map is your friend. And then there are also people at the Farm Bureau who offer these services, and also through our network, through some of the membership organizations. They have individuals who could perform an aerial consultation for you to assess your land and property just in general, even before the application process. We're down to the very bottom, like I said, for the cultivation application. It's pretty simple. It's only 2 pages long. You just need to make sure you have all of your documentations when you enter this portal, so that you don't have to save it and keep coming back to it. You could input all the data and submit it so it's not fragmented. And then you see here it says, I intend to process the hemp that I grow. If you intend on processing it, a lot of small scale farms do on-site processing. That's kind of an issue here in Georgia, because if you want to become a processor here in Georgia, you need to obtain a $100,000 surety bond, and you'll have to do a $25,000 application fee if approved. And so most people who intended on cultivating may wanted to experiment with processing on a small scale. That's something we're going to have to advocate for moving forward in the future, so that there's not that $25,000 barrier and a $100,000 surety bond barrier between them and touching their plants and experimenting with their supply chain. So that's just something to be mindful of, that if you do grow, it doesn't matter what amount, if you want to process it, Georgia requires you have a hemp processor permit. And then, as you see, it's just saying that you have attached all affidavits of people who will be a part of your operation. And so that's it. You certify, you submit your application, or you save and continue for another time. So that is the Georgia hemp processor application process that we just went through. I meant grower's license that we just went through. I apologize. So again, overview of the grower's license. If you want to have a grower's license, you just need to pay $50 per acre. You need to have $50 per acre. You need to ensure that you have your land agreements together, your business incorporated, and permission from your local municipality to do business in that area, a hemp business specifically. So next we're going to go over to the hemp processor permit. We're going to do a screen share here in just a minute. If you're watching online, I'm sorry, I'm looking down at the screen. I'm making sure I can see everything for you all. And I want to say thank you to our special guests. They're way in live for us. We're going to go through a hemp processing facility today. And we also have some footage sent in from one of Hemp Inc.'s properties. So we could see everything that we're talking about in live and in action. And so thank you to our special guests, Bruce Perlowin and Michael Coach Harris. We'll have them on here shortly when we're done with this process here. I'm just excited that we get to not only talk about it, but we get to see it in action too. So stick around so you could go through the hemp processing facility with us. That will be in about 15 minutes. So I'd like to shout out Andre for joining us, Robbie Rob for joining us, Joshua Collins for joining us. Thank you so much. Tamika, Amber, thank you for joining us today. We have a lot of people viewing us, making sure that the farmers are able to move hemp forward here in the state of Georgia. So now we're on to the hemp processor license. This one's a little more tricky. The application process online is relatively easy, but the documentation and the financial barriers is what has posed the biggest concern for small scale farmers. But if you're a commercial farmer, this may be something you're interested in. If you have collaborative partnerships with somebody who has a facility or even machinery that could be updated and transferred over, those are good partnerships to have for a processing facility. So I'm going to go through with a different sheet right here. This is on Georgia Department of Agriculture's website. This is just a quick overview versus the one on the screen share. Let me see if I could pull it up. I think it's down here. I don't see it, so I'm going to just go back to screen share and read it directly. So, for the hemp processor's license, you will need all of those same documentations that you would need for cultivation as far as a business incorporation, a gate card, and an EIN number. Those three things you will need. Aside from that, you will need $100,000 surety bond. There are a couple of businesses offering surety bonds in the hemp industry. You might be able to ask some of our guest speakers today who they can reach out to for a surety bond. But then secondly, you'll need to obtain all of your paperment and agreements for everybody, your growers and people who will be a part of your supply chain, making sure that you have all of those agreements in order and in line. Then you need to do your background checks. I know I went on their website and it was saying due to COVID, some of the systems where they do the fingerprinting and stuff is closed. So you'll have to go to your local police department or local law enforcement agency. So I guess that's the police department. To determine if they can do fingerprints and backgrounds for you and everybody who's going to be a part of your plan. So right now they're having an issue with the people who they were utilizing for the fingerprinting services. So now you'll have to go to the local police department for that. So on this sheet it says send in a mailed version to the Georgia Department of Agriculture. But because of COVID, they have enabled an online application. So we're going to do just what we did last time, do a proxy. We'll do this. This is just proxy information. You could put anything you want to and it lets you. That's interesting. So again, you have the basic demographic information we just put in. And then you would need to go through your business type, your LLC, sole proprietorship, blah, blah, blah. Are you applying as a business? I really want to know what is the other option. Are you applying as an individual, if not a business? That's an interesting differentiation we need to clarify with GDA. The main difference between the cultivation application process and the processing permit application process are these two sections right here, where it says processing and storage facilities and then products and disposal. So you need to have a disposal plan prior to putting in your processing permit application. You need to know how you're going to dispose of your hemp if it is hot or if it does not qualify to move forward. Also, you need to put your business members. We went over that. And then it says update your processing and storage facilities. So they need to know where are you going to store the hemp that you intend on processing. So the growers will come to you. They will have their hemp ready to be processed. Where will that location be? That's what they're asking for right here. Now, the interesting part is that you may store it from a different place than you're actually processing. So you need to be mindful of that. If you plan on storing it at one place and then moving it to another place, a warehouse to actually process, both of those addresses need to be provided. Even if they're in close proximity. And then it says, a legal description of this property obtained through the county courthouse. So you need to get a legal description of this property that you plan on processing from a courthouse. Again, making sure that your local municipality is okay with what you're doing. And then, do you own or lease this property? That's important because they need you to have a land agreement with people if you're going to be leasing that property, so there are no quarrels afterward if anything goes bad. Um, Also, something that's not on here, you want to make sure that you consult with your neighbors about if you plan on hemp farming prior to putting in this application, primarily to ensure that your crops are not going to cross contaminate each other and potentially ruin your investment. So you want to make sure ahead of time that you and your neighbors are on the same page about you growing hemp, them growing hemp, any of that. Just making sure you're on the same page to not cross contaminate each other's crops. If you don't mind, we're going to take a quick commercial break here in just a few, and we'll finish up this hemp processor license and get to our special guest. So we'll see you in just a minute. Hey y'all, thank you again for joining us with American Hemp Farmers Table Talk with Harris and Associates on Status Network. Again, today we have our special guest, Michael Coach Harris with the Georgia Hemp Association and Bruce Perlin of Hemp Inc. So we'll be getting started with them in just a few. Right now we're finishing up the Georgia Hemp processing application process. Once we're done with that, we're going to show you one of Hemp Inc.'s processing facilities out in Oregon, and then we'll bring in our special guest. So let's finish up this hemp processor license process. So again, my mouse is acting up on me, y'all. We're going to get it together. So we go ahead and exit out of here. Again, that was just showing you the processing and storage facilities requirements of documents you'll have to add in there. So once you're done with that, you just go down to products and disposal. I plan on asking Bruce a little more about that, about what are some good disposal plans farmers could consider for their crops. Because I don't even think the state has a preferred method of disposal for farmers. Like, are they just going to burn it up, or like, we don't know. So we're trying to get that together. But Coach and Bruce will be able to answer those questions. So if you go down here, you'll see you have about 7 attachment options for you to put. So again, that'll be your articles of incorporation, any documents that you need from your local municipalities, a building description from your local courthouse. You'll also need all of your agreements with landowners or business partners, a business plan, a $100,000 surety bond and background checks. And once those background checks are done, once the application is approved, the background checks will be done, and then you will pay $25,000 for a processing permit here in the state of Georgia. And you see, you'll just go down here and submit the application. So again, there are 2 different types of permits or licenses that you could get in the state of Georgia under House Bill 213. That is to process and permit. Process and cultivate. Like I said, there's a couple of things I want to go over before we cut into our special guest. We need farmers and advocates to be mindful of a couple of things that were not considered during this process for the licensing process. People who are white labeling are people who take products or either flour or products and make them into something else where people could go and put their labels on it. So that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be growing it or processing it. They might be dealing with wholesaling items. And so we need to make sure that people who perform wholesaling and white labeling are protected. And we need to do that by speaking with the Department of Agriculture and figuring out how not to criminalize people for dealing with hemp. Hemp is a commodity, and on a national level, we need to make sure that hemp is considered a commodity under the Farm Bill versus a regulated crop or substance. Also, people who plan on doing formulations such as the labs, next year they'll have to get DEA certifications. But there are people who know how to make handmade stuff. This right here is some handmade CBD cream from one of my friends, and it is amazing. And based off of what's currently going on here in Georgia, somebody would need a license if they want to touch certain levels of the plant to make something like this. So we need to consider that moving forward. People who are white labeling and doing formulations, how can we protect them while they're trying to touch or utilize the plant? Georgia just came up with House Resolution 8, I think it's 824 or 847, one or the other. But it's going to criminalize people who do not have a permit who are touching hemp or brokering hemp. So that's a very integral part of the industry, so we need to protect that moving forward here in the state. And then again, people who are going to move the plant in trucks with logistics, how are we going to protect them? In both of those processes we just went through, I didn't see anything about registering vehicles that will transport it, or how will that work out as well. Will they need a license? Because obviously those questions in that application is not relevant to somebody who wants to be a logistics person for him. So those are areas of licensing that advocates and farmers need to push forward for and speak with their lawmakers about. And I know we have a collaborative partner who we could potentially speak to, because research and development is a grand area for you to do pilot programs under a protected entity. Okay, so we are done with the licensing process. We're going to cut here into a video in just a few from our special guest. Bruce Perlowin is one of the greats in the hemp and cannabis industry. I met him through Michael Coach Harris. He is a huge pillar in the hemp and cannabis industry as far as bringing people together, being holistic, and understanding the importance of collaborative partnerships and networking. So both of them, we're going to speak to them when we get back, but right now we're going to cut into a video from one of Hemp Inc.'s facilities in Oregon. Taylor's going to lead us in, so give us just a minute and we'll have that clip for you.
Hi, my name is Taylor Kuzla, and I'm the Vice President of Operations here at our Southern Oregon facility. Behind me, you will see our processing center, and we're going to walk you through the different processes that we go through on our day-to-day. So here, from here, all of the product is pulled out of the super sack. To the right, you'll see that there's the larger nuts and the toast. And all of the big, smaller buds will head to our terminator. larges are hand trimmed. In these buckets, you will see our large nugs. This is the largest that they come out here at our facility. Any more than this, you'll have too much of a stick weight. Here we have some more bucket stations. All of the excess stuff will fall through the table and into toast. That stuff has been sifted for popcorn nugs. At these stations also we sort out all of the sticks and all the molds that you're going to get every single time. Again, all of our mids, smalls, and popcorn go to our terminating machines, which are here at the end. We put a few pounds in at a time. It takes about 15 minutes for them to be completely machine trimmed. From here, they'll head over to our sorting stations. At the first sorting station, we sort the mids from the smalls and the popcorn. We actually ended up hand making these nets and creating our own sorting machine. These are actually made for trimming, but we mess with them a little bit so that way we can use them for sorting as well. All of our purchases are custom orders, so we do what we can to fill anybody's need. This last station, we sort the smalls from the popcorn. From here, we also will sort out all of the duff and the shake. So that way, when you open up your bags, you don't have any of that, the shake or the sugar leave in the bottom of the bags. You only receive product. From here, all of our stuff will go into Mylar and then shipped to your door. And that's what we do here in Oregon.
You guys just got done watching Taylor at Hemp Inc.'s Oregon processing facility. So now it's time to bring in our special guests. We have Michael Coach Harris of the Georgia Hemp Association and Bruce Perlowin of Hemp Inc. So thank you guys for being here today. Coach, your phone is on mute. You need to go to the corner.
I'm good now. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can
Hello.
barely hear you, Coach.
Hey, how y'all doing today? Hey, it's good being on here with you, Bruce.
Take your hand off of your speakers or your microphone.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit, yeah.
Hold on. Go ahead and introduce Bruce. I'm too. What's going on?
Okay. And then we have Bruce Perlowin. Are you able to get your microphone off lock, Bruce? You guys bear with us. We're all trying to get this.
Okay, I'm on.
webinar
I
stuff
should be
together.
unmuted now.
All right. Hey, Bruce, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It was exciting watching your video of Taylor. Is that just
Yeah,
one of your facilities?
Taylor is an awesome woman. She runs that whole facility, and that's going to be part of my talk. Is it takes a long time to find a tailor in this industry, or a grower that's superior, or a processor. This industry is fraught with landmines. So I'm going to talk about that when it gets to my talk, and I can answer a lot of questions too.
And Coach, I would just like to say thank you for much. Without you, I wouldn't have Bruce here today as a guest on the show. Can you give me a little bit of a background about you in the hemp industry and how you and Bruce connected?
Just 450 for one and 450
Your phone's
another.
on mute, Coach.
What? I don't know.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Alexis? Hollywood, can you hear me?
I could kind of hear him.
Hear me now.
Yes,
All right. Yeah, how you doing today?
we're good. How
Say,
are
I
you?
wanted to say most definitely, thank you very much for putting this together, Alexis and Hollywood, and
Tell us more about yourself and the hemp association.
Him there.
no, I apologize. I had to take the Bluetooth off in order to wind up getting back with you guys. Can you hear me better?
If you can you
Can you hear me
mute
better, Alexis?
all the other guests except for Coach? Thank you. Go ahead, Coach.
All right. Yeah, what I was saying was, I'm glad that you put this together. I'm very proud as a father, and most definitely proud as a business partner, seeing someone with your gusto going in and pulling a lot of good conversations together. I have been pursuing Bruce for the last, I'm gonna say, about 5 or 6 years. We met in Vegas, and I've just been on him since because he had one of the leaders in the industry. A lot of people don't talk about the corticating machine he has in North Carolina, Spring Hope, North Carolina, which is one of the biggest five, I think it's out of five of the biggest processor decorticating machines in the world. And that is in Spring Hope. So I'm hoping that will go online soon. And once we know that is online, we know that we are moving towards fiber, which I think is very good in this industry. And I'm just, again, glad to be a part of the conversation and putting positive people to the table to help our industry grow.
And so, Coach, let me ask you. I know that you started the Hemp Association. What are your plans for the Hemp Association moving forward with Georgia and their hemp programs?
Well, we involved with I'm dealing with a couple of community events like Anthony Smith. He has a program called In the Trenches, and they're about doing community involvement. But really, I think our organization is more geared to, and I don't want to sound crazy, it's more geared to our network, because the network of individuals that we have in our organization is not like a regular, I want to say like a regular association where you just got members coming in and they're joining and they're just participating just to be in it. Our network has to have, you know what I'm saying, special individuals like Bruce Perlwin, who's at the top of the game. You might know Bob Bill out in Colorado with the Colorado Project. All these individuals are some of the top people in their industry, and we like pulling them together so we could, basically start building the industry from within. That's from the distribution network to the supply chain to a whole bunch of entities that need to be brought and sustained in this industry.
This is a good time to segue into Bruce speaking about Hemp Inc. So, can you give us a little history about Hemp Inc., where it started, some of the things that you guys experienced, and where you're at now, currently?
Oh, that's been a long journey. Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So Hemp Inc., we started the first publicly traded company in America in what they now call the pot stocks, and that was Medical Marijuana Inc., and that was about 12 years ago. And I sold that company about 10 years ago and started Hemp Inc. because I saw way, way more of an economic future and a benefit for people and farmers in growing hemp. And back then, I was thinking hemp plastics, just one division of hemp plastics, is potential to be larger than all of the medical marijuana and recreational marijuana put together. So we started Hemp Inc. and we did a lot of different things. We did some hemp shampoo and hemp conditioners and hemp candles and hemp lotions. We had that wave of things. We started the Hemp University, where we started teaching farmers how to do hemp. We started the Hemp University after we went to North Carolina, where we built the largest processing center in the Western Hemisphere. There's, like Coach said, there's 5 of them this size in the entire world, 2 in South Africa, 2 in France, and ours in North Carolina. And that took way longer than we thought. We anticipated 9 months, and 1.2 million or something like that. $20 million later and $3.5 million later, that plant was running. And not the entire plant, but just we found we didn't have to decorticate the product. We just had to run it through our big grinders, and we lose the fiber, but we make lost circulation material and a spill be gone, which is a spill oil cleanup product. And we make more money when we grind the whole plant up together. So we have a lot of super sacks full of this warehouse. It's 85,000 square feet. We then from there we went to Oregon, and Oregon now is our fourth year growing. This year will be our fifth year growing, and we hit a grand slam in Oregon. What you saw with Taylor was the end of a long process of growing. And let me talk about, you have to really be passionate and enthusiastic, and as Coach says, have a vast network, because you're going to have to rely on working as a team to pull this off. If you're passionate and committed to the hemp industry and the hemp revolution, because a lot of people I am, for a lot of different reasons, then it's going to take you 3 years to get going. Our grand slam was 40 acres, 100,000 pounds of dried buds that you saw there, and we're doing pre-rolls and selling the buds themselves. We finally broke $1 million in sales in the last 10 weeks. But that was our fourth year grow. So it took us 4 years to really learn all the mistakes. 65 to 75% of all the farmers in Oregon last year failed. And I believe 65 to 75% of all hemp farmers in America last year failed. So the biggest takeaway that I have to offer everyone, start small.
I think that's huge. That's a huge thing, because I've been to at least 10 different farmers forums over the past year. And I know after going to Hemp on the Slopes and stuff like that, I tried to come back and disseminate some of that information, and farmers were not trying to hear it. Farmers inherently are kind of stubborn. Not all of them, but some of them are stubborn. So when I'm coming in, somebody who does not grow, and I tell them, listen, I went to all of these conferences, and the farmers say, start small. Their mind is like, forget what you're talking about. I have 500 acres. This guy told me I'm going to get rich and I'm going to do whatever I want to. So what you just said is huge, huge, huge. By starting small and making sure that you have a good network to support whatever products that you're going to be making.
Yeah, and Alexis, I was one of those stubborn farmers or stubborn people. I was going to grow 10,000 acres and 1,000 acres, and Barry's on with us now, and he's like the more conservative part of our company, he's a consultant for the company, and we work well together, because I'm like the wild go out and get him guy, and he's the conservative guy. That's, Bruce, there's a lot of things you don't know. If you grow, here's my advice: if you grow more than 5 acres your first year, you're out of your mind. All right. Let's take the 40-acre grow that we did remember, there's a million things, not a million, there's 100 things you don't know. Every step of the way, from where you get your seeds, from the right cultivars, they don't turn into males or hermaphrodite on you and turn into males and destroy not only your own field, but everybody else's field in your neighborhood.
That's right.
So that's what happens when you go big. All right, 40 acres. That's 80 linear miles. You got to walk those fields every single day.
Wow.
How are you going to walk 80 miles a day? Now let's take 40 acres. Look at the guy that wants to do 400 acres. That's 800 linear miles. You got to walk those. There's no getting around it. You got to walk them every day. And you'll hear guys say, well, these fantasy stories. We have clones that are going to overfly and identify the males and go down there and pull them out. Right. That's maybe in 5 years from now.
I've actually heard that too, so I'm glad that you clarified that. When we went out there to MJ Biz, there were people who said they have drones that have the capability of testing to see if a plant is hot based off of the thermal energy from the plant or whatever.
Okay, that may be true enough, but let me tell you what you want to do. If you're going to grow CBD and you're worried about it going hot, please don't grow it. Grow CBG. CBG will never go hot. It's way more money than CBD right now, and the stuff really works. All right, I'm not making medical claims, but if you've got pain and you start taking CBGs, it's a good shot that pain is going to disappear. But the main thing for the beginning hemp farmer, if you're worried, because It breaks your heart to see a guy have to burn his field. Right? And I don't know why they do that, because it's a little hot. If you grow CBG, you will not go hot. So that's one landmine that you don't have to worry about. Right? And if you grow more than 5 acres, you're out of your friggin' mind. Now, there's multi-gazillionaires in this industry and multi-millionaires, and they're all jumping in, and they're the big shots, and they're going to make all this money. Jen Canada just went out of business in Kentucky. Okay, Mile High in Colorado's in trouble. All the giants in the industry with the hundreds of millions of dollars all crashed and burned, all for different reasons. And there is some success stories, but let's talk about walking the fields and why I want you to start small. I talked to a guy in Colorado. He says, yeah, I'm growing 350 acres. And I laughed. And I said, really? I go, and how many people do you have walking the fields every day? And he said, 250. Every day, 250. All right, on 40 acres, we employed 305 people. 305 people. Do you have the deep pockets to employ 305 people? There isn't any way around it. The way around it is grow industrial hemp. You're not going to make nowhere near the money, and I don't even know where you can sell the industrial hemp, because we're in North Carolina and we only pay 9 cents a pound and in transportation, so it's iffy. But you know what you're getting? You're getting the experience. Some people want to grow for seeds. That's a whole world of seeds out there. You're going to go buy feminine seeds. This is another landmine. Where do you buy your feminized seeds? All right. I'm going to give you a list. I'm going to give you some useful information. Hold on, I gotta go get my list of the seed companies that we know are good.
Okay. And we're gonna take a minute from Bruce and go over here to Coach. If you could, hold on, Bruce. We're gonna pause on you real quick and go over to Coach. Coach.
Mute. You got me on mute.
No, you're off now. So, taking into account some of the things Bruce talked about, I wanted, before he goes into seeds for farmers, because I feel like Georgia's farmers are not even to that point yet. There's a couple of things we need to talk about with Georgia farmers before they even get to the ordering of anything for their operations, which is partnerships. So if you know Harrison Associates, we have our strategic P's, our 3 strategic P's, which are strategic planning, strategic positioning, and strategic partnerships. And Coach has been integral in making sure we have very sustainable partnerships. Because like Bruce indicated, there are a lot of people entering and exiting out this market, both with a lot of money and no money, who are just commingling so much chaos. We have to provide clarity. And that can only be done with people who actually care about this industry and who have spent time in this industry, which is why they need to be paid for the work that they have done, and they need to be acknowledged for the work that they have done in this business. So with that being said, the collaborative partnerships aspect of it and strategic partnerships aspect of it is so important, because Bruce just told you it took 4 years to get this great team in Oregon. He also told you that if you grow more than 5 acres, you need to be prepared to employ 350 or more employees. He also just stated that you need to make sure that you're able to walk through your fields, not use lazy tactics that are convenient, because that could ultimately destroy your investment or destroy somebody else's investment. So I wanted to go over an overview of some of those mindful things that Bruce just said that we need to take into consideration before we move forward. And so, Coach, being in the state of Georgia and understanding that some of those licensing, some of those areas of the industry are not covered through licensing, how can we get partnerships through the Georgia Hemp Association that will protect individuals who want to come into Georgia and provide services like Bruce?
Well, and that's the thing. That's why I said Georgia Hemp Association is more about our network than anything. That's why I said you should become a member of multiple organizations, but most definitely organizations that will help you advance in what you're trying to do. For instance, we were talking about the seeds that you just mentioned. Well, for most people information, you have a lot of people coming from outside the state trying to take our farmers and give them certain seeds that were successful around the United States. But there has, out of the 50 seeds that UGA grew, it was only 2 of them that were basically high CBD strands, and that are successful in being sold in Georgia. Now, our thing is who is selling those seeds, who got access to those seeds to help them out, because we know what they're doing in Georgia clay. But now you have certain other seeds like CBG seeds, which we know don't get hot, but we don't know how they interact in Georgia soil. So therefore, you would want a good relationship with whoever will provide the seeds, so you can have some type of guarantee for your success. And they would, 9 times out of 10, want to be part of your success, so they know the results of their seeds. So then they can even, build a stronger hold in Georgia. So the strategic partnership.
You're breaking up a little bit, Coach. Slow down and make sure your hands aren't on the speakers on your phone.
And I apologize. But the relationship that you get with the seed provider, let me in state or out of state, is imperative, because you want them to be a part of your success with your seeds. So in case something go wrong, then your relationship with them, they will be more apt to want to be successful, and therefore they would go along with you in the journey. Some people just want to sell you seeds and that's it. But some people are willing to work with you and also extract what they're giving you, because they know the quality of their seeds. But in order to get that, you have to have somebody who has industry knowledge of those individuals, the best lookout for your investment.
I want to ask Bruce a very important question, kind of going back to the application process and understanding kind of what that looked like as far as you getting facilities in the areas in each state that you're operating in. What did that legal process look like? Did you have any major blockades from getting you permitting, even down to your business permits or your incorporation permitting? What type of obstacles did you face getting your actual facilities in each different state?
We had a lot of obstacles. In North Carolina, we didn't have much any obstacles. Hold on, let me try and get back on. Okay, there we go. We didn't have very many obstacles in North Carolina. And Oregon, there wasn't that many obstacles either, because we were just setting up a processing center. It took a lot of money, a lot of time. We didn't throw hundreds of millions of dollars at it, but we threw millions. That grow that you just saw with Taylor that took $5 million, and that's only 40 acres, but it was successful. It worked. So that's why I say, please, guys, if you're going to do more than 5 acres, have them call me. I'll tell you why you don't want to do more than 5 acres. Because they don't know, they don't know. That 40 acres, I'll give you another example of that. That's a local processing center. We built a local processing center up in Oregon. That's another landmine. Sleazy partners that rip you off, or sell you bad seeds to steal try and steal your business and your clients behind your back in the local processing center up in Oregon. So what we did, we're in a lawsuit against our local processing center partner in Oregon. So we rented a building. Well, our growers were too successful. They grew 40 acres. We rented 12,000 square feet to dry it in, and we ended up using 135,000 square feet. Mm. So when you think about, I'm going to grow 40 acres or 500 acres, really, where are you going to get the hundreds of thousands of square feet to dry it in? Well, we're going to use this advanced drying technology. It doesn't exist yet. Now, you can do biomass, but the market for biomass crashed and burned. That's why all these companies one of the reasons a lot of these companies are going out of business, because so many people came into the industry. I'm tackling 40 acres in Mojave Valley this year. Now, with that huge successful grow in Oregon, we're not even growing in Oregon this year, because we're consultants, and we rather consult and let somebody else risk the $5 million, and we can sell it in our pre-rolls. We're going to shoot for 40 acres in Mojave Valley, and I'm doing 40 1-acre grows in the Hempathon at the Eco Village. So a collective, 1 acres is way easier to manage, and you can do that 40 times.
I'm thinking we need to get you to speak to some of our elected officials, because the two things with you saying the advanced drying issue within the industry, I think that's not something they really understand. And so that needs to be brought up to the forefront when speaking about the size of people's operating facilities, because like you said, if those things aren't in place by design, they will fail. And we don't want people losing millions and millions of dollars just because they had poor planning. And then secondly, as far as your collaborative partnerships and how you vet those people so you don't waste time, money, or energy with them or messing up your resources. So I have another question about a decortication machine. I hear you and Coach both talk a lot about decortication machines. Can you emphasize the importance of having them in this industry? Because I know a lot of people think they could just change hemp easily over into rope. This is hemp rope right here that we got, but that was imported from China. They think they could make clothes and paper right now with hemp, and that is not the case. So can
I'm
you
sorry.
speak to that?
Yes,
You
that's they
Coach.
don't know what they don't know. Let's look at making clothes. Okay. First of all, a decortication plant. Decortication means to strip off the outside bark. All right. And in that bark is where the fiber is. So this is a huge, giant machine, 250 feet long, 20 feet tall. And you can buy them and install them and get high quality fiber. But that's step one. All right, you're looking at millions and millions of dollars just to get that fiber done. Now you have the fiber. Now we can sell the fiber, us, Hemp Big, to the automotive industry, and they'll take it as fiber if it's less than 2% herd in there, which you have to have a very sophisticated decortication machine to get that. We've got that in North Carolina. And we never even finished it because we grind the whole plant up into a powder because that was quicker and easier. But we're going to come back around and do that. But once you get that high quality fiber, step two, you have to have a yarn making machine. You have to spin that fiber into yarn. There's another $10-20 million factory. Then you take the yarn and you got to make it into a loom factory where you actually make the fabric itself. Somewhere along the process, they dye that fabric, okay, until you get the colors, and now you have hemp fabric. Then you can start a hemp industry. Then you can design clothing and start making clothing. So you have three giant factories in the textile industry, and people don't know that. They don't know that there's that many steps. There's way, way more steps than anyone could ever imagine. First of all, a normal farmer has no clue how to grow cannabis. Not even a clue. It's not tomatoes, it's not potatoes, it's not, lima beans. It's none of that stuff. The only one that knows how to grow it properly is a marijuana farmer that's been growing marijuana illegally. But they don't know how to grow it large. They all do big, illegally or legally, okay? In Oregon, a lot of states, medical marijuana is legal, but there's still, you can only grow 12 plants or 48 plants or 99 plants at the most. And some of these guys will grow, 99 here and 99 there, or 48, in 5 different locations. And then all of a sudden, you're allowed to grow 100,000 plants, 150,000 plants. And that's totally a different realm. Now you're talking semis and giant warehouse space. And so the cannabis growers who are expert growers don't know how to scale up.
Right.
They don't know logistics. So you got to combine that. And that's just the beginning. You got to use the resources of an entire network or you're going to fail. 4 people commit suicide in Oregon. This is not a joke. I don't want to see, I was the guy gung-ho, plant as many. I figure, okay, there'll be a lot of mistakes. You learn by your mistakes. Okay, we can afford it. We're a public company, but 4 people committed suicide in Oregon. All right, and there is all kinds of things you don't expect. Right now in Georgia, you're dead for this year. Here's what's going to happen. All right, same thing that happened in Arizona last year. By the time the fingerprints get through, you've just wasted 1 to 2 months. We had the same problem. Why did you need, and you don't need fingerprints in North Carolina. You don't need fingerprints in Oregon to grow hemp. Where this Arizona fingerprint thing, well, the fingerprint, that is a bottleneck. That's bottleneck number 1. You're not going to get your fingerprints done in time, nor you're going to get your licenses done in time to plant successfully this year. That's why you should only plan for 1 to 5 acres. Get some experience under your belt. And I can't believe I'm the guy that's saying this. I know Barry's listening, and he must be in amazement that I'm actually reversed my position. Coach remembers me talking huge acres. I just didn't know what it was, how many landmines there were until we actually did it. And we only did 40. And then I saw everybody else going out of business. I went to a place that grew 400 acres, 350 in Pahrump, Arizona. Beautiful, Pahrump, Nevada, I'm sorry. Beautiful grow. I just bought their tractor and some nutrients and some weed eaters on auction. They went belly up. What happened? 400 acres, they could not find all the males. The males pollinated, destroyed their entire field, and everyone else's in that region. And the
That's
same thing
good.
happened in Colorado with the big grows. The same thing happened in Oregon with the big grows. And not only do you destroy their fields, you're liable for that. It's called drift. If your pesticides drift over to someone else's farm, you're liable for it. If your pollen drifts over to someone else's farm, you're liable for it. But most of these guys are going out of business, so it doesn't help to sue them. So that's why you got to start small and get some experience under your belt. All right, and get your license. I had a whole bunch of clones, 21,000 clones, seedlings in Pahrump, Arizona, Nevada, right? And I couldn't take them to Arizona last year because the licensing time frame took so long. By the time they finally issued us our license and we could plant, it was too hot. We were 30 days late, more later than we thought. So all those, not all of them, most of them cooked and fried. We lost pretty close to the 21,000, almost all of them. Then we had this grasshopper attack. Google Las Vegas grasshoppers, and you can't believe what happened. It was a 13 and 7-year locust, but they're really grasshoppers. Sometimes people call them locusts, came together and wiped out everybody's. They ate every friggin' hemp plant that was growing out in our area because they made it out there too.
My friends actually Googled that to me, the lotus invade. We live in the Bible Belt, so to them that meant Jesus was coming back because the grasshoppers attacked Las Vegas. So, but I wanted to interject real quick. We have Carl on the line who's going to show us some stuff in the greenhouse. This is another one of your locations in North Carolina. So if we could get visuals on Carl, but make sure Bruce is able to still speak, I'm going to ask him a couple of questions about some of the stuff that we're seeing actually in the greenhouse. I know in Georgia, a lot of the farmers do intend on using greenhouses, so it's great that Carl is showing us a greenhouse facility. And we'll have those visuals to you shortly. I'd like to thank everybody who's here joining us today on this webinar.
And by the way, that is a safe, successful model to grow and clone in a greenhouse and then sell your clones. That is a thing that I would recommend that people do. Even though there's a lot of landmines, you got to know what you're doing. It's a lot safer than growing more than 5 acres. Mm-hmm. And you can make a lot of clones in a greenhouse and you can sell them to all the other farmers. But you got to be mindful of the price. When we started in North Carolina, the price was $15 a clone. And by the time the clone, we started producing them and got ready for the market, it was down to $3 to $4 a clone. But still you can make money in a clone. In a clone, you're in about 70 cents if you do it right.
Okay. So we're going to go over to Carl. It's going to minimize Bruce for a minute. Carl, I know I told you won't be talking, but I'm going to have to ask you a couple of questions while you're in there. Let me see. I don't see him on the main screen.
Can you hear me? I see you. I don't run out of the main screen though.
I can see you, Carl. Go ahead, Carl.
Okay.
When you speak, I could see your screen, so that's what's throwing me off. You have to speak before I can see your screen.
Okay, you can see me now though?
I can. Okay. So this is Carl. He is one of Bruce's, I'll let you introduce yourself, Carl.
Carl Hoffman. I've been working with Bruce for many, many, many years. I run and operate the farming in North Carolina. This is one of our greenhouses here.
So if you could tell us a little bit about your greenhouse, one about the plants that you have in there, the equipment, and some of the challenges that you face or that you'd like to prevent the other farmers from going through.
Well, I don't know where to start, but I'll tell you that the pH of the water coming out of our well is incorrect for the plants. You need to be in a pH range between 5.8 and 6.2. That's where the nutrients get absorbed. So to get around that, we put the water in barrels and balance it. And use pumps and stuff and wands to distribute it to plants. We water the plants when they're light. Mm-hmm. Like when we literally pick them up, right over here, pick them up easily with one hand. This one needs water. Where that one no. It's a tedious process taking care of the plants because they're individual beings in a sense.
How many plants do you have in that particular space?
Well, right here is 6 plants.
Okay. And in the whole
Okay.
entire greenhouse?
Right now, I have about 100 plants in the greenhouse of different sizes.
I would imagine that that makes it easier for you to walk through and monitor the plants. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, the plants that are in different stages are in different areas of the greenhouse. So, but yeah, it's a lot easier when you can get to each plant.
Tell us about those plants right there. We see some are green at the top, it's
They're all
yellowing at the
they're
bottom.
all CBG. All plants, as they mature, pull the nutrients out of the older leaves. So
Okay.
that they pull the nutrients out, the leaves turn yellow. We go through and we pick them off as they turn yellow because it's pulled all the chlorophyll out of it. Basically, the energy's been removed, and the next thing, this thing would just turn brown and die. But anybody that's been working with plants should be familiar with that.
What do you do with the ones that you pull? Do you do any type of green recycling of those leaves?
And a couple different things. I mean, I eat some of them, among other things.
You mentioned that there's different stages within that greenhouse. So can you discuss with us some of the?
When I say different stages, well, we have the plants, which these are actually like mother plants. And then we have clones. And I got a couple of cloning experiments going on. I'm going to show you one of them. This one I put inside of a tent did not do so well. My thought was you put it in the tent like the first 3 days to put them under a humidity dome. But this doesn't need that. So I did a small experiment and learned that it doesn't need that. Move on. But that's what I mean, different stages. I don't have any seeds that are being started right now, but I would set up an area and germinate the seeds. There's many different options for starting seeds. Some are a little bit more environmentally better than others. But I generally use, I don't know if you can see that, so 72 trays of different assortments, which are pretty common in the planting industry.
How many staff members work in this greenhouse, like to maintain it and keep it operating at the best capacity? How many staff members?
When it's completely full of plants, it takes about 3 people.
Okay, that's not as many as I envisioned, so that's pretty
Well,
good.
it really depends on how many plants you have and how many different activities you have going on.
And then of those 3 people, what type of knowledge or psychology would you want those individuals to have from a project manager standpoint?
Well, it helps if they're familiar with hemp, but not always, because some people get, like what you said before, very opinionated. So I was able to take people that weren't very knowledgeable in hemp and take them through the process, one process at a time, show them how to pH balance the water, show them how to water the plants, know when they need water, show them how to take the leaves off and stuff like that. And it went really well. Like I didn't run across any person that wasn't able to understand the concepts.
And what about soil people? Like I've heard just from some of the other farmers, those are integral people to have on your team, somebody who is very knowledgeable about soil, not just as soil, but as a living medium to, like you said, grow those beans.
Yeah. That is definitely important. You got to remember there are things that are happening scientifically here that you need to pay attention to. That there are experts that know more about it than like me or somebody else, or
And so how much time do you spend actually in the greenhouse, or do you spend more time doing something else that supports the greenhouse?
It really depends, because I do some other farming. I grow some vegetables and stuff. Plus, we're preparing to grow the 2 acres here at the farm outside. So I'm preparing the greenhouse to start, 5,000 plants so that we can put them in the field out here.
Amazing.
Are
you
so
able
that's
to
getting
cross,
the main focus. What?
Are you able to cross? I don't know if I'm asking this properly. I tell people I grow relationships, not crops, so I'm still getting hip to the terminology. But can you grow hemp with other commodity, like tomatoes or something, like to enhance the air
You mean
quality
like
around it or anything?
a companionship?
Right.
That's a good question. I don't totally know that. I have friends that grow plants with different things like hot peppers at the end of their rows because they think that wards off bugs and stuff like that. But I haven't seen anything scientifically proven it. We do like to grow plants outside that attract predator bugs, which are natural bugs that eat the insects that may attack the hemp plants. Whether you're growing inside in the greenhouse, you're growing outside, you're going to have some form of insects.
And you said those are called what bugs?
What?
What were those bugs called?
Um,
Crater bugs? Is that what you said? Or
no, I said you're going to have some type of insects, whether you're growing inside or out. I didn't say any specific ones. Everybody gets different insects depending on what part of the country they're in, and
heard?
but
Okay.
you know how to deal with that.
Okay, well, Carl, I really appreciate your time. I'm so glad you were able to join us. I know we had some communication errors throughout this week, but you have been amazing. I'm so glad Bruce was able to get you on this call. We have another individual that Bruce has invited out who is in a eco village. We're going to give him some time to get his camera and stuff ready. But Bruce, if you could talk a little bit about that project that you have going on in the eco village. Again, thank you, Carl.
All right, I want to back up and answer that. What Carl said was predator bugs. Predator bugs are you grow marigolds. Marigolds will ward off aphids. They're just an orange plant, a flowering plant, and you plant those around. And sunflower seeds. Sunflower seeds make home for a ladybug, and a ladybug is a predator bug. They will eat the aphids off the plants. There's things called lacewings. There's a whole science of what bugs we used to call them walking sick praying mantises. All right, that's a predator bug. Those are good for you. Frogs will eat 10,000 times their own body weight in harmful insects to your plant. Okay, so that's what Carl was saying. And he also, you may have missed it, but he said a lot of those plants are CBG plants that he was growing in there. Okay, now let's jump over to the eco village. The eco village is a very, very mature model of what the back to the farmland movement incorporating growing hemp. This is called Veteran Village Kids Community because I'm one of those guys from the 60s. You can see my hair that want to change the world. My way of changing the world is there's 22 veterans committing suicide every day. And so this is a home for them to help them and to teach them how to grow hemp. So you may see some geodesic domes in the pictures, and that's the Holistic Healing and Learning Center portion of the Veteran Village Kids Community and growing hemp. We're having the Hempathon there, and we're teaching the veterans how to grow hemp so they not just rehab and learn how to be, not addictive and personalities and get rid of their post-traumatic stress disorder, but they learn how to make money by growing hemp, organic farming, and all that stuff. So with that, I'll turn it over to who I call IT Mike because he's our tech guy out there.
IT Mike, I see your visuals. I think we were going to keep it quiet because of the wind, but we need you to talk first so we could get your visual up on the screen. IT Mike. So if you could just say hello real quick, we'll be able to get your visuals up.
Hello.
Hi, IT Mike. Thank you for joining us today, and we have your visuals, so thank you so much. What are we looking at right here?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and let Bruce explain all that. It's on him.
Okay.
We're doing what we call the Hempathon out there. People can join this and grow 1 acre. So what he's showing you right now is the cover crop. That's another thing. Before you prepare or after you've harvested or before you plant, you should have been growing a cover crop. That's the desert. This is a bona fide, all full-blown desert. And all of that he's showing you see on the right is the cover crop, and all of that is plowed under now. All right, so we're getting ready to make the rows and to plant. We have a bit of a longer planting season, so you can see that these rows are made. I don't believe anything is planted in there yet. Mike, you can hear me. Is anything planted in there? Because you can't see on the thing here. But if not, they're about to plant. All right? And also on the right, you may have seen in the very corner a bunch of what's called biochar. That's another whole world of those big super sacks over there. That's biochar. That's some of you may have heard of mycorrhizas or the soil microbes. They live in the biochar. So biochar doesn't feed your plant. The biochar provides a home for your mycorrhizas. And you got to learn about mycorrhizas, and most farmers don't do that. All the cannabis farmers all know what mycorrhizas are. All right, it's the microbes that live in your soil, and they feed the uptake of the nutrients. Carl said that your water has to be a certain pH otherwise you won't uptake the nutrients. Well, guess what? The temperature of the water has to be a certain temperature. It won't help uptake nutrients. The pH of the soil has to be within a certain range, not just the water, but the soil. All right. Now he's walking towards a 40-foot by 40-foot grow. Those used to be organic gardens, but then we decided we don't want to have vegetables near the hemp because there's too many pests and bugs that come to your vegetable garden. So we switched that organic garden to all. This is all hemp. This is one of the Hempathon growers. We do still have some vegetables in there. There was some rhubarb onto the right there. And this is all industrial hemp growing in the middle of the desert. Wow. So hemp can grow anywhere. And these are either CBG. I think most of these are CBG. Some of them are CBD, but most of them are CBD. Now what he's going to show you is a 1 acre field and all that hemp is just starting now. This is recent planting. They're in the ground, in the desert. They're well watered. We have a well that produces 365 gallons a minute. And this is the beginning of one of the contestants' 1 acre grow. All right. Wow. Again, you can go to, if you go to kinscommunity.com, KINS community.com, you will see what the Hempathon's all about in the Veteran Village Kins community, what that's all about. Okay, so with that, he's probably going to try and get, you're not going to get to as many spots as we talked about, Mike, because it's going to take too long. Yes. But maybe you can go to the next spot.
And we have about 15 minutes left on our webinar, so if he's unable to go anyplace else, that's okay, because this will not be our only conversation. Like we said, we're building relationships and we're making sure we're building a network out, so we're definitely going to make sure that farmers and any of our participants are able to connect with some of these resources that we're providing here today on this webinar. I'm so happy that Coach and Bruce were able to join us today as special guests, and a special thanks to Carl and Ken who were able to give us some of those live visuals from our processing facilities and cultivation facilities throughout the United States. Before we close out here, I'd like to say, is there anything else, Coach, you would like to say? Coach or Bruce? Coach, you're muted.
Well, let's see. Just that it takes a lot long. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, sir.
Okay. It takes a lot longer than a 2-hour webinar to tell you all the elements. That's why we had the Hemp University. We had 6 of them in North Carolina and 5 of them in Oregon. And it was an all-day affair with different speakers speaking about different things about the hemp industry. We can't do that now because of the coronavirus. So these webinars are going to be a critical factor in our industry. You can't go to expos anymore, like you were mentioning earlier, Alexis, because they're not having them. So webinars are the key to the future right now. And but they, you could maybe make it on a weekend and have an all-day webinar, because it really takes all day to teach all the different aspects. I do want to give some useful information real quick. Where to get your seeds, it's critical. We've been burned so many times. We have a lawsuit with a guy who got ripped us off for $700,000 for the seeds. We brought them from Oregon, took them back to North Carolina. They had a 23% germination rate. All right, so here's the list. Crawford Brothers in Portland and Oregon, Northern Oregon. Cascade Collective, Ashland, Oregon. These 3, okay, Colorado Hemp Project, Longmont, Colorado. Purple Mesa, San Diego, California. HGH Seeds, Longmont, California. Ventura Seeds, Ventura, Colorado. Ventura, California. And there's one more, Barry, if you're on, I missed one in Oregon. Oh, wait, there's another one. CRJ Biosciences. And they're out of Fishers, Indiana. But these guys are, they'll give you your CBG seeds at 40 cents, all right, instead of $1 or $5. I mean, that's some of the nutty stuff that was going on about 6 months ago. They were selling CBG seeds at $5 a seed and $4 a seed
and that's $3 if you want seeds, because a lot of the farmers here definitely want to propagate or use clones for their grows. So if you want to utilize seeds, make sure you definitely listen to Bruce. He just told you all of the stuff he's went through, all of the stuff that he's had to, the resources he had to accumulate to even go back and share this with you. He's saving you time. And what did he say? $700,000 worth of seed. So I
Yeah.
think you should take heed to the advice that Bruce is giving today, as well as his growers and coach. They have all been in this industry for for a very long time. We say these numbers of how long we've been in the industry, but really they have a passion for this plant. It's beyond just building an industry, which is why they are pillars to this industry, because they actually care about the plant and not just about the money and monetary benefits that they could have. Hence, Bruce has a whole community dedicated to veterans and their mental health, and being able to use farming and hemp growing as a mental health component and help them with PTSD or any of the other ailments that they're going through. So I commend you, Bruce, for being holistic in your business practices and being what we call corporately responsible. You're a corporate responsible business and a socially responsible business by ensuring you're not just filling your pockets, but impacting the communities in which you're having these operations. And that's something we are really worried about in Georgia. We want to make sure that people who have the money, who are crowdfunding $5 million or what have you, understand that there's a community aspect to a good business model, and that you have to have a holistic, if I get to choose, it'd be a holistic harm reduction model, which means you're not judgmental about things you don't know about or you're unfamiliar with. Some people in Georgia still think hemp is crack. And so this is the type of education that we have to promote, that hemp is not crack, and hemp has multiple things you can do with it. If you don't want to have a conversation about smokable hemp flower, well, we could talk about fiber. We could talk about skin creams. We could talk about oral supplements. We could talk about isolates. There are other things we can talk about so we don't get caught up in the argument of why we think something is good or bad. The fact of the matter is hemp is a renewable source of energy. It will help improve our planet, and it can help detoxify the things around it. And so with COVID going on and other different global warming situations going on, we need to be mindful of supporting hemp, not only for lining our pockets, but understanding the potential it could have on the world in general. Coach, are you there? If Coach is there, we wanted to talk about the importance of membership organizations. So Bruce is one man, but he also talked to you about how he has a team. And so there are people who started organizations specifically to intermingle different teams so that we could have a holistic marketplace. Harrison Associates has programs called IIPs, which are infrastructure implementation programs, because like Bruce just said, these webinars would be an IIP. These webinars are necessary to build the infrastructure for farmers, brokers, and anybody who wants to be in the hemp industry. So we have to continue to we have to continue to build, create, and implement projects and programs that will sustain the infrastructure. So in Georgia, as we continue to move forward, we need you to support membership organizations, because those are generally the people doing the education sessions outside of entrepreneurs like myself who go and find sponsors to support these education sessions. That would be like Peachtree Normal, National Normal, Georgia Hemp Association, Minorities for Medical Marijuana. These are, and although this is hemp, understand cannabis and hemp, as much as Georgians and Southerners like to segregate the plant, hemp's not cannabis. The end of the matter is they both have cannabinoids that are beneficial in their own different ways, so we cannot demonize one over the other. We have to understand the purpose in which we are in this industry, or what we want to protect and promote. So with that being said, Coach, I want you to talk about why it's important to be a member of Georgia Hemp Association, some of the things you plan on doing moving forward this year as far as building the network in Georgia, and some of the things we could look forward to from you and Bruce together.
But it was funny because I called Bruce earlier this week to introduce him to Amy Ansel. And this is Amy, if you guys don't know who she is. She actually did a TED Talk talking about the sustainability and what's going on in the hemp with bioplastic. So when we talk about partnership with individuals who can help grow the industry, we got to have individuals like Bruce. We got to have people like Amy. We got to have certain people in the industry who see the vision and know where to take the whole industry. But we, as far as entrepreneurs, Alexis, myself, we have to go out and grab those individuals and become partnered with them so we can make our state a great state. And without that, we're not looking for the future. So Georgia Hemp Association is looking to go out, build positive relationship for my constituents or for my members. You know what I'm saying? I don't want people to become part of the Georgia Hemp Association, then we're all looking at each other, trying to figure out what we should be doing. It is our responsibility, the Georgia Hemp Association, to build those relationships, have those people available, and constantly create with them. And again, Alexis, I love your philosophy of the triple P's, which is partnership, strategic planning, and strategic, give me the last one.
Positioning.
Mm-hmm. And right now, we're just positioning ourselves to make sure that the Georgia Hemp Association has a lot of validity and value to it. And also teaming up with the Minorities for Medical Marijuana with Roz McCarthy, who's also doing the same webinar. Also dealing with Mr. Bay over at, Grow and Get Rich. Those guys are out there putting the footwork in. And if we are constantly doing our own thing and don't know where to come and commingle and make the industry great, we're going to fail. Like you said, Bruce said a lot of positive stuff about if you don't have a good team, it might not work. So again, we're constantly out here trying to build the right people, pull the people together, and make sure that we're in the forefront of the technology, information, and the individuals who are in the industry that's making a difference.
Well, I'm so glad.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Amy, I'm so glad he was able to get you on to the call today. We're going to make sure we get her own webinar, because once you guys find out about this amazing woman right here that you see, you are going to just be in awe about how much education she has to drop on you. She is in the biofuel and bioplastic industry. If you want to say a couple of words, Amy, so they could get prepped for your webinar.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. It was really nice listening to your webinar today, and I couldn't agree more about everything that was said, creating alliances, planning, starting small, really having your eyes open before you deploy. And the biofuel industry is really fascinating, and the bioplastics is just as fascinating. There is so much to talk about on both fronts, and tune in. I'm here to talk about my experience trying to navigate these new technologies. We're in a new paradigm, and there's so much education and so much discovery, and in that you have to just parse it as well as piece it together, and that takes a lot of time, and love is in the details. So I am absolutely here, poised and ready to jump into those kinds of discussions.
Thank you so much,
Amy.
Thank
you so much, Alexis.
And Bruce, we will be calling you because she really wants to sit down and talk to you too. So again, Alexis, I'm gonna be signing out. I love you. You did a wonderful show. And Bruce is 100% right. Webinars are the future. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that when we have these webinars, we're bringing people of substance who are actually in the industry doing the work, I think is important. And I think you'll be doing all that, Alexis. So thank you again. And you did wonderful, guys. I'm so proud. I'm your daddy, so proud.
Look it up. Look, thank you, Dad. Thank you, Amy. I would also like to say thank you, Bruce. Bruce, do you have any last words?
Yeah, Coach, make sure I know when Amy's webinar is, because I really want to watch that webinar. And because, we're part of the supply chain to bioplastics in our plant in North Carolina. We grind up the material and they use that for bioplastics. Some company in South Carolina buys it from us. So I'm very interested in that industry. And Alexis, I think you are awesome. You you are really, really great, and you got a great father. So you guys are awesome.
Thank you all so much. I'm just so happy to be a part of this process. My dad, if you guys didn't know, Michael Coach Harris is my father. I saved that for the end because I wanted you to really retain some of the stuff that we were talking about. But he has been passionate about this plant for a long time. And between having a sick grandmother, a sick sister, a sick mother, a sick community, I really felt like this plant was a healing factor within our community and has really called me to stand up and fight for the things that I believe in. And I really believe in what my dad, Coach, and Bruce are doing. So I hope that you as business owners and advocates will support both Bruce and my father as they move forward with some of these endeavors for our communities, because it's not just beneficial for them and their businesses, it's beneficial for the future of everybody, because these are the people at the forefront making sure hemp and cannabis essentially can be decriminalized. So I want to thank my guests. I'm going to do a review of everything we went over before I get out of here. I would like to give a very special thanks to Jack Trey of the Status Network. Without him, none of this would be possible today. I don't know if you're viewing it on Facebook or if you're viewing it on the website, but if you go to statusnetwork.net, you will see an amazing production. It's not just a Zoom call. There's somebody who took time to make sure you guys have beautiful aesthetics and that this call went nice. So make sure you visit www.statusnetwork.net. And so, like I said, let's do a quick review. So there's two different types of licenses you could get in Georgia: for processing, one for cultivation. Cultivation is a lower level permit where you only have to pay per acreage and background checks and ensure that your paperwork's together. Again, that information is on agr.georgia.gov. Same for the processor permit. It can be found on that same website. The difference is you need to make sure you have a $100,000 surety bond, $25,000 application fee, and all of your paperwork together, inclusive of a building description from a courthouse, a storage and warehouse partnership, and also a what is it called? Destruction plan. So if you need to get rid of it, you need to have a plan for destroying your crops. So those are the two types of licenses. Moving forward, whether you're a farmer now or want to be one in the future, or you're just a citizen, understand for this hemp industry to move forward in Georgia, we either need to make sure that this House resolution that is planning on criminalizing hemp is not pushed forward, and you can do that by reaching out to your local elected official and letting them know you do not support House resolution that criminalizes flower. That is includes smoke shop owners. You guys currently have smokable flower in your shops right now in Georgia. If you do not want to become a criminal, you need to ensure that you speak up to your local officials and ensure they have some type of protection for people who plan on touching the plant but do not plan on either processing or cultivating it. So basically, if these are middlemen people who are necessary in this industry, because like Bruce just said, if you're in operations, you can't handle everything and you don't know what you don't know. So there are intermediary positions that will need to be filled and they need to be protected, just like somebody who has a cultivation license or a processing license. Outside of that, if you'd like to join our team, I know Harrison Associates is looking for a social media partner, somebody who can manage social media channels, and also a digital design partner. So if you are interested in providing those services to our network, feel free to send me a DM. My Instagram is consultingharris.com. My website is www.consultingharris.com, where you could book consultations and also have me do your application process if you just don't have time for it or you don't want to do it. Those are services that we can help you with. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to IHEA, that's the Industrial Hemp Education Association, and Amir El Bay for connecting us with the Status Network. If you have not, please go to his website, which is We Are IHEA, IHEA, and you can get a book that will educate you all about hemp. So, a lot of people think Google searching is enough, but this book is really a resource for general education to get you up to date prior to putting in your application or putting anything into the soil. Again, that's weareihea.com if you would like to get that book from Brother Amir El Bay. That is it, you all. I'm just so glad everything went well today. I'm so happy for all of the guests we had here today. Like I said, this will not be our last webinar. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at consultingharris.com to get more updates about our webinars. We are signing out. Again, I'm Alexis Harris with Harris and Associates, and thank you for coming to our American Hemp Farmers Table Talk.